I want my readers to have hope. There is hope out there, so much hope. And I want them to feel empowered to go for what they have been putting off for a while or afraid to even entertain. First of all, that generosity, that we're missing that. A lot of people nowadays are missing that aspect of generosity and the joy it can bring to your life.
Yeah.
Look for opportunities to be generous and be kind. I've yet have a person brush me off. It's almost like they're surprised when somebody is kind to them. It doesn't take much, It doesn't mean like give thousands of dollars. It doesn't take much, It could be generosity of spirit. It could be welcoming someone.
Welcome to the Sock Door Podcast, where life is messy, but we always find meaning in it. Every week we pull out the stories, the lessons, and the hidden gems. And then we ask the big question, keep it or kick it? If you're ready for real talk, brave steps forward. I'm your host, Lisa Begley, and you're listening to the Sock Drawer Podcast. Let's jump right in. Have you ever felt quiet pull to create something that honors where you've been and who you're still becoming? Well, today's conversation, it's about that beautiful intersection between heritage and reinvention. It's about how the stories that shape us can become stories that free us. My guest today, Odemaris Mendoza, she has spent more than 3 decades as an educator before stepping into a brand new creative chapter as an author and founder of Odemaris Creative. Her historical novel, The Gifts of El Jíbaro, celebrates the heart of Puerto Rico, its mountains, coastlines, and the spirit of generosity that binds generations together. So if you've ever wondered whether it's too late to follow a creative calling, Odemaris' journey is your reminder that it's never too late to write your next chapter. Hey there, Sock Drawer family. Welcome. Today, I am thrilled to introduce you to Odemaris Mendoza, an educator turned author whose work bridges culture, identity, and courage. She is born in Puerto Rico. Odemaris grew up surrounded by storytelling, family traditions, and generosity. And after 34 years in education with an MBA, I might add, she founded Odemaris Creative, where she blends business, purpose, and art. Boy, talk about reinvention. Her debut novel, The Gifts of El Jíbaro, takes readers on a multi-generational journey through the mountains of Puerto Rico to New York, Paris, and beyond, exploring how love, legacy, and mystery shapes our lives. Odemaris, welcome to the Sock Drawer Podcast family. We're so grateful to have you.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm very excited. I love what your podcast talks about and emphasizes, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. Well, we're honored to have you here. And I when I got your information, I was so excited to just dive right into all that you're doing. And I love people who have reinvented themselves. I coach people that do that. And it's just always a blessing to get to meet and connect with people who have done this in their lives multiple times, as you have. So you've described, let's just dive right in. I want to get into the roots of it all, okay? So you described your father as a sharp-edged Jíbaro and your mother as coastal and spirited. Where did those things come from? How did those things inspire those descriptions?
Well, my mom, my parents were go-getters, both of them. When they were young, like my mom put her brother through college, and my dad, he was very much like El Jíbaro from the story that I wrote. In fact, I wrote it to honor him. And I'm still working on one for my mom, mind you. That's coming, but
we can't wait.
So that will coastal one, but it's in the works already. But they were like their own little power couple back in the day. In the 50s when they met, they actually met in Old San Juan, and they both had businesses. So I come from a line of business people. My mom's dad had a grocery store in the town of Aguadilla, and he was known also for his generosity and kindness. And then my grandpa He had a little business going. He had a farm also in
Beautiful.
coffee and tobacco, and they
That's
used to
amazing.
sell things. So my dad was a teacher too. He started out as a teacher, and it didn't last long because he had this drive that inspired him to move on, and he became a businessman. And he was a rags to riches story. He was
Oh,
an incredibly creative person, except for his creativity was buildings. So
okay.
I grew up in the arts. They had me in all aspects of the art. I used
Mm-hmm.
to be in dance lessons for many years. I took
Mm.
art classes for many years. I had music classes. I was going to be in the conservatory before I moved to the States.
Okay.
So, I mean, I was surrounded by arts and it just fed my soul. Even then, as a child, I didn't recognize it, but I know now that it did. It was what kept me running. I used to accompany my dad when he was going to business meetings and sites and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it was very natural to me. I don't know any 9-year-old who was reading architectural magazines.
I hear you. That would
But
surprise me as well.
I would spend hours reading these things. I can read blueprints, and I was like, wow. So at first, when I grew up and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I thought, I might be an architect because
Hmm.
of all of this, exposure that I had, and I
Sure.
enjoyed that. And, you know, it just, there was a dissonance in my brain. I just didn't quite see myself as that. So, I became a paraprofessional in a school, elementary school, and it just kind of took off from there. So I've earned a lot of experience over the years in many settings,
You
all
sure
the
have.
grade levels, except for true middle school. I call true middle school those warriors that go to middle school and they do the battle every day. And oh my gosh, God bless you all. That's not me.
Listen, middle school, I mean, there's so much involved in that, right? With the hormone changes and everything that's going on. I always thought that has to be the most challenging. Well, it's funny you say that. Could you describe for us what is a sharp-edged Hibaro?
Okay, so in my view, mind you, this is just me, Ole. In my view, a sharp-edged Hibaro is someone who thinks of possibilities and
Okay.
jumps on them, thinks of a way. Because there are Jibaros who want to stay Jibaros in the land. By the way, a Jibaro is a person who lives in the mountains. That's the definition of it. And it's
Okay.
actually a Taino word. Taino are the natives from the Caribbean,
Mm.
and that's their term. So it's basically like a Highlander, but a tropical one. Some of them choose to stay there, and let me tell you, it's gorgeous. It's
Mm.
sublime to be up there.
Oh,
But some of them want to do something else, right? Like all of us, we have different goals. So my dad was one of those who wanted to do something else. He had this drive, and he was the kind of person that, one of the things that I learned from him was he would treat people, everybody, it didn't matter your level in life or your station in life. He would be kind to everybody. He was always laughing. There was a joy about him
mm.
most of the time. I mean, he's human, right? We have our emotions, but
Of course.
for the most part, he was the one that made people laugh, and he was just infectious that way. So,
Sounds wonderful.
yeah, so that is part of what inspired me to write the book because I grew
Mm.
up visiting, like they had get-togethers in the country. They had get-togethers. They always had family get-togethers, and there was usually music. All of us played some kind of instrument, and
Mm.
if not, from the records and things like that. So back in those days, but there was always activity, always, being together. And those were some of the things that he left behind, the appreciation for that. So maybe other people have heard this before, but, for the purposes of the podcast, I have to explain that when my dad passed away,
Mhm.
he did not, he had a very fast passing compared to my mom. So I felt like I didn't get a chance to honor him,
Mm.
and I felt like I always describe it as the world lost a color for me when my dad passed. You know, there was something missing. And it was very sharp. Like I had, you know, I'm a dog lover, so I walk my dog and stuff like that. And I was like, it just doesn't feel like yesterday. It doesn't feel like a month ago, you know, very drastic. So I said, I have to do something. So my mind started sparking up, you know, and thinking about these things. And sorry, to this day. Uh, so, um, so I started thinking, okay, what did he leave me? And there was a lot, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't said, but there was a lot,
Yeah.
you know. So his memory lives in the book.
So beautiful. And you know, I was there, it sounds like it was a slow kind of lead up to
Oh yeah.
deciding to write this book. And maybe I'm wrong. Was there a defining moment that pushed you to kind of say, okay, you spent 34 years guiding students? Was there a specific or defining moment that pushed you to sort of reinvent yourself into a new chapter as an author?
Yes, it's actually it was a slow burn, you know, a
Yeah.
very, very, very slow burn. The idea of the book came about, believe it or not, in 2006.
Okay.
Yes. See what I mean by slow burn?
Yes.
So, so I thought, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would become a novelist. What? You know, that's crazy. So, and then I kept thinking, I'm going to make one, if anything, for my family to have, you know, for the next generation, because I didn't want them to lose what we grew up with, you know. And I said, well, let me think about that. So I kept putting things together in a map in my head, you know,
Yeah.
a story map, if you will, for lack of a better term right now. And I kept adding to it, and then I was like, okay, what would happen if this, and what would happen if that? So I had everything pretty much plotted out in my head for years. But life came at me really hard during those years. We had illness, like my mother became ill, and it was just a progressive situation. It took a lot of time. You know, I work in the school, so that is a very intense job. You know, I'm a mom too, so it was very, you know, run the house, everything. And I kept thinking about it, but I really didn't have the time to sit down and write. So things started finally slowing down. And in 2021, I kept telling myself, you know, I really miss the arts. I really miss this. You know, I need to include that in my life, the creative process, because, like I said, it used to drive me. And then as like you grow up and you have to adult or whatever you call it, you know, you don't have much time, right? So I
Yeah.
said, I need to do this. And I kept telling myself, oh, but you've never been a writer. You know, what are you going to do with, you know? And I'm like, well, this is myself talking, you know, in my head. I'm like, well, you're just going to sit down and try it. You know, might not be perfect, but the worst that can happen is that you can try again and
So
tweak
good.
it, you know. And but you have to find this time to be creative. So one day, it was in July of 2021, I said, all right, here we go.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna
It is
happen.
going down,
Yeah.
right?
It's going down.
It's going down. So
I love it.
I'm a very musically driven. So I have to have music. Like I'm constantly playing all kinds of music. And I said, all right, let's find that Eye of the Tiger music that works for me.
Yes. That's
So,
great. I love it. Yeah.
not that exact song, right? But like an inspiring song for me,
Yeah.
right?
For
And then I
you.
said, all right, I'm going to sit down. And I'm a night owl too, so I can't write during the day. It just doesn't flow. And I said, all right, I'm going to do it when it's quiet. The world is quiet, no distraction. And I actually sat down and wrote the first chapter. I was like, what?
So you I noticed that you weave in mysterious pebbles as symbols of timing and transformation. Do I have that right? Can you kind of share what those mean to you within the story?
Mysterious, you mean? The mysterious
Yeah.
aspect of the story?
Yeah.
Yes. And uh, sometimes things are being conveyed to us, you know. I don't want to give too many details about that, but
Yes,
but
our listeners
sometimes
are going to go
things,
get it.
yeah, things are being conveyed to us, and we're too busy to pay attention, right? And that's what that's all about. You know, sometimes you have to zero in, be aware of what's being conveyed to you. And you'll see what it is in the book, but but that's the mysterious part. You know, these guys were busy, right? But
Yeah.
they paid attention, you know.
Yeah. It also explores friendship, generosity, and heritage across the decades. How do these themes mirror your own life journey now?
Good question. So courage. I've had to have a lot of courage. I didn't. Sometimes we don't realize how much courage we have until we get hit by something that just makes it deploy, right? If
Yeah.
you will. So my courage became evident to me when my dad said, "Okay, you know, you're going to move to the U.S." And I'm like, "What?" You know, it took me, it blindsided me. And my brothers had, you know, moved earlier in search of, you know, better educational opportunities, and they're all awesome and wonderful people and very accomplished. And it became my turn, and I never thought it would be my turn, but my dad felt strongly about that because he was a former educator, and he's like, no, you're going. And then wow, that was such an incredibly drastic change for me because I was in high school. So the last 2 years of high school, it was brutal. It was
I'm
very
sure.
brutal.
Oh, can only
I
imagine.
spoke some English, but not as much as I needed, you know,
Yeah.
to navigate the whole scenario where I was placed, right? And
Yeah.
it took a lot of courage and a lot of buckling down and again being sharp edged in that sense
Yeah.
to make it. And I cannot tell you the number of people who said, "Oh, you're not going to last in here. You're just going to." I mean, all I heard
People can be
for
cruel.
the most part were negative messages like, "You're not going to graduate. You're not going to do this." And then
Aw.
I went to college, and I was in college for a total of 11 years. Not because I was delayed or anything like that, but because I worked. You know, I had to work, and part of it, part of my degrees, I was a mom. So of course, you know, that was really different from my first degree when I wasn't a mom.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to have courage
Yeah.
to get up and do this over and over. I used to work full time. I would commute 45 minutes to my work, and I would commute about the same to go to school at night, and then commute back to my house. I was like, I don't know how I did this, you know,
Yeah.
by the grace of God, but I I had that commitment and the courage to stick it out. And I graduated, uh, you know, 3 times.
Good for
so,
you.
so I know that from then I had courage, you know, a lot of courage. And
It sure sounds
like
like it. Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I'm a mom. Um, it,
What, let me ask you this. What do you hope readers feel? What would you like to know that your readers feel after turning the last page?
oh, wow. Okay. So I want my readers to have hope. There is hope out there, you
Oh,
know, so much hope. And I want them to feel empowered to go for what they have been putting off for a while or afraid to even entertain, you know. So I want them to have that sense when they finish my book. And I want them to have a sense of, first of all, that generosity. That we're missing that. A lot of
yeah.
people nowadays are missing that aspect of generosity and the joy it can bring to your life.
Yeah.
You look for opportunities to be generous and be kind. And you know, I've yet have a person brush me off. It's almost like they're surprised when somebody is kind to them. Um, and it doesn't take much, it doesn't mean like give thousands of dollars. It doesn't take much. It could be generosity of spirit. It could be welcoming someone. For example, the other day there was someone who was coming to work in my home, and I said, hey, it's really cold out there. Would you like a cup of hot chocolate? And he was like, what? That is so nice. Like, he had never been offered a cup of hot chocolate. Mind you, I made a cup of real hot chocolate, not the powder stuff.
Well, sometimes it's the little things.
Yes.
I so agree with you. It could be a hug. Like I've been accused of being a long hugger. I'm a long hugger. Like I hug, I hug for a long time. And it could be weird, I'm sure, but I'm a hugger, and I think people, deserve a hug. I think people desire a hug. They may not even known. It could be the smallest thing. It could be holding a door. So I agree with you so much. Let's take a little pivot, because I'm dying to jump into building Blue Maris Creative. So
Okay.
Why did you decide to form Blue Maris Creative LLC, and what does the name signify for you? I know part of your name, but bring it all together
Yes.
for us.
Yes. Well, my name means the song of the sea in Latin. And then the Maris part is, of the sea. So I was trying to think of an appropriate name for my next chapter, my next creation. And I love the color blue, as you can see. Uh, it's part of me, and I wanted a little bit of me in the title, so I named it Blue Maris, which means blue sea, creative.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
I said it's awesome. I love it. I love the connection.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So I have been in education for a grand total of 34 years. And in time, it will be time to retire, and I want to do something creative this time around. That is my goal. So I also paint. I have many things that I've painted, and I don't have a lot of time. I'm focusing on the writing right now, but I would like to get into that and do my own art as well for my books and things like that. So, as a matter of fact, the picture that is in the book behind me, I painted that. So it is a picture of the doors of Old San Juan. It used to be my parents' favorite door. So that's another way that I included that to honor them.
So good.
So,
good.
but my next venture is going to be creative. So the main focus will be, I will continue to write novels, and I like the research part of my novels, because I take great pains to make sure that I have it 100% correct, and the way that presented in a way that it makes sense with the book, and it's a learning process for me as I do the research. And it's like a puzzle, right? Like putting a puzzle together. That's the way I look at it. So I think that brings in the analytical part of me, but it meshes it well with the creative part.
That's so lovely. I wonder, what has surprised you? I'm curious to know. What has surprised you most about building a brand around your writing?
Well, right now, most everywhere I've been, just about, has been very, very welcoming. It's the other day I had a book signing in one of the towns nearby, and I was just tickled pink, because I was telling you that one of my missions is to bring the Jíbaro to the world, make him well known, and what he's about, right? Or the culture. And as I was out there were so many people walking by, and they're like, there's El Jíbaro, As I have this great big artwork with the Jíbaro, from the cover.
Yeah.
And they would come over and talk to me. I was like so tickled pink that they knew about the Jíbaro. So, part of my focus is to bring my island and its culture and all the good things that we can offer, and make them well known. Not because of the tourism aspect, but because of the people aspect.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
culture, the heritage, all of that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
beautiful. I wonder, is it something with Blue Maris Creative, would you also offer your services out to other people, or are you just keeping it within your own space for now?
Well, it's kind of early right now. I think within the
Okay.
next, few years, I would love. It would be awesome if I could invite other figures, cultural figures from the island who also do creative pursuits and include them. And
I love that.
yes, and I'm actually enjoying coming to podcasts, so I might just go in that direction too. It sounds very intriguing to me.
I love it. I think you'd be amazing at it. I think for our listeners, in fact, considering, thinking about our listeners and their own creative ventures, you're so motivated and you're so courageous in your steps that you've taken. What's the first step that, say, anybody could take today to head in that direction if they felt like they wanted to start their own creative adventure?
Well, I think that sometimes we have to be our own best cheerleaders. Sometimes we're not.
True.
So yes, and I think I would encourage folks who have been dreaming about doing something, and maybe they themselves kind of stopped themselves in their own tracks. I would say, step out of that. Step out of that, even if it's for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Even if it's for 10 minutes. Motivate you. In my case, I love music. Find a soundtrack that motivates you, play it, and go do what you have been putting off, because it's not late. If it brings you joy, if you can bless other people with it, even better. But don't be afraid to take that step, because it's very powerful just to step away for 10 minutes. You might be like so surprised, like I was when I wrote the first chapter. I was like, this story is begging to be told, and I just kept going. And you might just feel like that too.
So good. That's such great advice, to find something that empowers you, whether it's music or exercise or whatever it is. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's so many different things, but find what motivates them, and then they can be empowered to take the next step. Well, let me ask you, what does legacy mean to you now, and how will your work contribute to it?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, as a child whose parents passed away, legacy is critical in my view. Um, the way you conduct your life, you might not see that your children are watching, but they're watching. They may not tell you they're watching. People around you are watching what you do. So it is important. As a human being, you want people to grow. And in my case, I don't like this hate that I see, all the bickering. I don't appreciate it. I don't think it's helping us grow as humans, right? I want, the reason also I wanted to leave a legacy, because it is important that we put that message out. Right now, the message is not coming out. The media is it seems to be very negative. And we need a lot more positive. We don't want to become negative in our soul, and I think my legacy, I hope people remember, is that I put out something that will help build people up, and give them joy and hope, and help them be kind and generous, to whoever comes across in their life. We need more of that. Yeah.
Amazing. I agree. I couldn't agree more. This may be a different question, but I'm curious to know whether it's impacted you or not, but does writing in English about Puerto Rican roots challenge or expand your voice?
Well, it's funny you would ask me that, because at first I was kind of torn about how to go about it,
Yeah.
because you have people here who might not have ever heard of Puerto Rico other than, oh yeah, it's a great place to vacation, right? But you also have second generation, third generation Puerto Ricans who have been born here and raised here, and they have heard from the culture, but they have not seen any representation about that, right? About that particular aspect. And I said, wow, because I could think of my students, and they would be tickled pink to see the representation in the literature.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I think I'm going to do it in English. And then I remember I'm learning French, and yes, that's one of the things that I do.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking, oh, when I have to see what something means and I don't quite follow, and then you have to go back to the back of the book or whatever,
Sure.
I really don't like that. So I think the purists might disagree with me, but I'm not about the purists. I'm about the readers
Yeah.
and their experience. And I for the English version, if there is Spanish, which I do include Spanish, it's part of the culture. You will know immediately what it means. You don't have to turn anywhere, and distract yourself. You will keep your momentum as a reader because it's going to be right there on that page. So I decided to do it that way. The Spanish version will be coming out very soon, and that one is not going to have a lot of extra things pertaining to the language, because it will be recognized very easily. But it is. I was reading the first part of it, and oh my gosh, I cried when I read it in Spanish, because it is so true that the representation is there.
Yeah.
And I think it's really going to touch people when they start reading it and they see. I included a lot of places that are well known, a lot of places that might not be. There's legends included, things that come in naturally when you are, living as a family and you go places and things like that. And I found a way to honor that. There's music. There's foods. I mean, expressions that we say. Some of them are very funny. There's humor, especially when the kids are growing up. The main characters' kids are growing up. They're funny, and so there's a lot of. It's a great mixture of everything to give you a good picture of what it's like, what's the culture like, and what are we about. I even included recipes in the back. This is what I make at home, that are like Jíbaro cuisine, basically. And you can make a whole meal just like what the characters ate. Very simple ingredients. You can find them anywhere. And some of them can be vegan or vegetarian, and they're naturally like that. So I think it was a good addition. I do intend to expand that in my next books and just keep adding that, because I think it gives you another window into the characters that most people don't think about.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. It's a great idea, and just giving a recipe, an authentic recipe from the culture, from the heritage. I just love that. Let me ask you this. What has this chapter of reinvention taught you about patience, maybe identity, self-belief?
Yeah, that's another great. You are full of great questions today.
I worked really hard at it.
Okay, so
I'm curious. Curious to know.
I came full circle, like being from Puerto Rico. We're all proud of being Puerto Ricans, no matter who they are. You'll see that you probably won't find a Puerto Rican who's not proud of being Puerto Rican. But being here as a high schooler, I had to dial it back, because I was the only one pretty much. And so I concentrated in, my what I had to do, learn English, focus on my school and things like that. And I kind of lost some, and I was not happy about that. I didn't speak a lot of Spanish for a long time. And I was like, no, this is wrong. This is so wrong. It feels wrong. And I I took it back. I took it back, because that's who I am. That's part of who I am. And it wasn't recent. It's been years. I stay in touch. I do not live in Puerto Rico, but I can tell you what's going on in Puerto Rico because I watch. I know the news, what's happening. I stay in touch with my family
Yeah.
as much as I can, and if there is anything about Puerto Rico, I'm there. The other day there was an art exhibit. I was so overjoyed to see the painters from Puerto Rico in my town. I made a beeline, and I was just loving every second of it because it just fed my soul so much.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. I think reclaiming like who you are, your identity, it feeds your soul. It makes it sing, and we need that.
So
We
true.
if you think about us, like I'm sure you've had some challenges in your life. Most of us do, and we're battle scarred, by life. If you think about it this way, and we have to search for whatever is a balm to us, whatever feeds us. And it's there. Sometimes we push it off, like I did, for many years.
Yeah.
But once you get it back, it's like, wow, it's like I'm way happier now that I have ever been. Um, because I'm making a point to include that and to fight for that because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about for me.
Well, looking back now, if you could speak to your younger self, the one standing in front of a classroom, what would you tell her now?
Okay.
Be a long conversation.
No, I'm laughing because when I first came to be a teacher, I did not have a teacher voice. And I was like very
Yeah.
soft spoken. And then I was like, okay, you need to learn to speak like a teacher like
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
So, and that's an analogy because we have to speak louder. Like sometimes we have to speak louder to ourselves so that we ourselves will hear what it is that we want to do, that we've been pushing off, right? So I would say, first of all, we need to have some grace with ourselves because there's a lot that we do in our day-to-day life, and it's very taxing sometimes. Sometimes it's fun, and sometimes it's very taxing to our soul. And I've learned, especially in the last 10 years, I would say, that it's important to spend time developing these things. It might be something simple like starting a garden. And I love gardening, by the way. And it could be something simple like that. And I make sure that I'm including those things. It might not be something at a huge scale, right? But starting small, having grace with yourself as you get back to that, that zone where it's like, okay, I need to spend time to nurture, these things that are meaningful to me, and setting aside that time is important because it's so easy nowadays to lose track of the time. Everything's so fast paced. So it could be, going for a different walk in a different place and taking in nature, or going with your best friend and having a great talk. It could be any of those things. Everybody's different. Some people enjoy sports, and you haven't been to a baseball game in ages, do that. If that makes you happy, take the time to do that. So
Find what lights you up for sure. I love that. What do
yeah, and
you think your folks would say now, seeing you where you're at? What do you think your mom and dad would say?
my folks, well, they're in heaven. They're gonna. I know they're saying, "There she goes."
Look at her go. Look at her go. I love that.
Yeah, there she goes. Well, my dad, being a Jíbaro, he would laugh. Sometimes I would tell him what I was up to, and being, he was always funny and always cracking up. And I said, back in the day when they had fights, with the roosters and whatnot, people would bet on them, right? So I said, if you were in a fight, I'd bet on you.
And That's why what
And that
they're
was a
saying about you
compliment,
now.
Jíbaro style.
Yeah, yeah. I love it.
And I'm
I
like,
love
oh my
it.
gosh, Dad, the things you come up with.
So good. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure they're just up there proud as heck about you and just proud to see what you're doing and what you've done and how you've brought, the legacy and culture and all of the family generational pieces together for others to learn about and read and gain empowerment and hope from it. So so this is kind of the part of our one before we move into our drawer dash, which is a 60-second lighthearted sort of
Okay.
insight, we rapid fire.
I can't
Well,
wait.
it's going to be fun. But, and we always do this for our listeners as part of our show. But is there anything else you would like our listeners to know? And we do have the Tiny Dare segment, so I'm going to have you come up with something for them. But, is there anything that we kind of didn't touch on that you'd like our listeners to know about you?
Me in particular?
Your book, your Blue Maris Creative, what you've got going, anything.
Yeah, well, like I was explaining, my book is going to be coming out in Spanish, and I am working on getting it as an ebook, and next year it should come out as an audiobook. So look for that, and I trying to see how I can inject more music into the book. You can hear the Jíbaro music in my website if you were wondering about that, because the
I love
teacher
that.
in me, the teacher in me included all that in my website. You could hear the music, see the places that they visited, and there's like all these little things that you can click on to view, so that you can get a better picture of their world, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to see how I can incorporate that in an audiobook so that it gives you an even truer picture.
So good. And it kind of almost takes you right there with,
Yes.
in the story.
Yes.
So that's wonderful. Well, good. Well,
I-
and that is at bluemariscreative.com. Yes?
Well, it's actually my name. It's Odemaris-Mendoza.com.
Okay.
And then
I'm
you'll
glad we
see
asked
the
about that.
Blue Maris
Yeah.
information there.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, are you ready? We're
I'm
do
ready.
the 60-second drawer dash. All right.
All right.
I'm just going to
Let's do
shoot
it.
some rapid fire questions and you answer just the first things, just fun.
Okay.
First thing comes to mind. Okay. Morning ritual that sparks your creativity.
Oh, Puerto Rican coffee.
Okay, I love
That's
it.
it. It has to be there. It's not a morning if I don't have my coffee.
Okay. Is there a specific brand or something specific that you
Well,
use?
there are a few. So there's Jaucono, Yaucono. That one's really good. You could have something like Cafe Crema. Those are very smooth coffees to try. The brain
Okay.
has to be lit.
For sure. Favorite writing snack or comfort food?
Oh, I don't eat when I'm writing. I
Okay.
just realized that I don't. I
Okay.
do have.
Do you
I
have a
like
favorite recipe or comfort food that you like or that you make often?
mofongo. Mofongo.
Okay.
I know you don't know what mofongo is,
Don't
but
have any
you need
idea.
to look up mofongo.
Can you spell
It's
that for
spelled
us?
MOFONGO.
Mofon.
I sample mofongo everywhere I go, but mofongo is made. It is a Jíbaro food. It's made with plantains that have been mashed, and then you can include garlic in it. There's quite a bit of garlic, and then there's chicharrón, and chicharrón is like crispy pork rind, little bits.
Sounds like sweet, kind of sweet, salty kind of a mix.
It's not sweet. The plantain, it would be garlicky because it's been infused with garlic flavor. It's the green plantains, not the yellow ones,
Gotcha.
the riper ones, right? So those are sweet. But you can eat it with caldo de pollo, which is like a chicken broth, or my favorite kind with the shrimp, and it's Creole style with a tomato based sauce.
Right.
It's so good.
Okay, next one is song or sound that reminds you of home.
The sound that reminds me of
Song
home.
or a sound. Either one.
I love En Mi Viejo San Juan because it means in my old San Juan, because my dad he has strong ties to Old San Juan. And I grew up there, basically. I would visit there all the time with my dad. And he would go, because that's where he got started in his business. There was a restaurant that I visited my entire life. It's in the book also. It's legendary. And so every time I hear that song, oh my gosh, I start crying. I sing it, and I'm not a good singer, but I have to sing it because it speaks to me.
Do you have a hidden talent or a hobby outside of writing?
It is a very obscure hidden talent. You will never believe.
Besides your art, what is it?
Well, it's related, because that's what I do.
Yeah, because you're creative.
But from when I was little, I was in dance class and I learned to play the castanets. So that's a very hidden talent. I don't go around playing the castanets. People would give me a side eye. I think, what is this lady doing that? What is that? But it's so great. So every once in a while, I'll break them out and I'll play, my music, and I'll just go to town and play them. Another hidden talent that's more practical, if you will. I can fix things. My handyman would beg to differ, I think. Because I give them the harder things to do that I can't physically do.
Last question. One word to describe this season of your life.
I would say a season of plenty.
Yay.
Yeah. It's time. Yeah.
Well, okay, that leads us into a season of plenty, y'all. All right, that leads me into our Tiny Dare. Every week, our guests create a Tiny Dare or a challenge that is small and meaningful in and of itself, but it helps our listeners maybe to encourage them to take one small step toward their goals, towards their happiness and joy. What's your Tiny Dare for our audience this week? Something they can do today to maybe reconnect with their roots or reignite their creativity spark?
I think it goes with what I talked about already. I'm a big proponent of that. I would say, listen to that voice that's been speaking to you. Like, really listen to it. Take some time, 10 minutes, and say, okay, at this time in my life, what is it that I've been not doing that I really need to do? And acknowledge it, because sometimes we don't even acknowledge it. And take, even if it's 5-10 minutes to try to do it or begin to plan to do it, I think that would be something very productive for a lot of people.
I love that. So listeners, you heard her. Try to listen to your intuitive voice, something that's kind of pulling at you that says, this is what you're meant to do. Take time to listen, and that's different for everybody. And I think, whether it's just being quiet or going for a walk or listening to your favorite music, like Odemaris said, take time to listen to what's being said inside you, in your heart, in your soul. Odemaris, thank you for bringing such depth and grace to today's conversation. Your story, gosh, it just reminds us that, we all have a call to create something. And whether through its words or art or action, it doesn't fade with time. It waits for us to listen, just like you just said. So for everyone tuning in today, audience, here's your thought for the week. Maybe reinvention isn't about finding a new path. It's about finally walking the one that's been whispering to us all along. Stay
So
inspired. True. Keep moving forward, one brave step at a time. We'll see you in the next episode of the Sock Drawer Podcast family. Thank you so much for being here.
It has been a true pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, Sock Drawer family, that's a wrap on today's Drawer Dump. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their story and their heart with us. Until next time. Don't forget, life's too short for mismatched socks. Retire the ones with holes, inspire the ones that still shine. See you soon.